everyone, and welcome to today's recipe. We're going to be making lahoh sanani, which is a sourdough flatbread made from a fermented starter, and it goes well with other sour type foods like yogurt, bisbas, sahawik, and it's also used in the Yemeni dish shafut. It's easy to make, but it involves a lot of steps, so I've outlined the steps here for you, and the ingredients are written before each step, so try to follow along. Okay, let's get started. The first step is to make the starter. So the starter involves a 3-day process. On the first day, you need to mix all the ingredients, which are your 2 flours, a whole wheat flour and a white flour, 1/3 cup of each, and 1 teaspoon of yeast, and 1 cup of water. And you can add the water slowly so it doesn't lump. So just mix that all together. Cover it with either a towel or a cover, but you don't want to seal it. You want to make sure that air can get out. So I'm going to let it sit on my counter for 3 days. On the second day, you can see that it's kind of bubbly and yeasty. There's a lot of activity going on. I'm just going to stir it, cover it again, and let it sit on the counter until the 3rd day. On the 3rd day, you can see the yeast activity has subsided, and there's a liquid, brownish liquid at the top. That's normal, that's what you want. So now we're on to the next step, which is to make the dough. You can make the dough on day 3 of the starter, so once your starter is all ready to go. If you don't want to use your starter on day 3, you can put it in the fridge, and it'll be okay in there for a couple more days or even longer until you're ready to use it. What you want to do is mix all your ingredients together and knead them into a dough. The dough should be just like a bread dough, not too wet or not too dry. If it's a little dry, you can add water, a tablespoon at a time. I use the mixer to knead my dough, but you can also knead it by hand. Okay, so once your dough is kneaded and ready to go, you can just cover it again with a towel and let it sit on the counter for about a half an hour until it doubles in size and it's risen. The next step is to make the Shutterbug, which is really easy to make. It just involves flour and water. What you want to do is mix together a 1/4 cup of flour and 3/4 cup of water, but add the water very slowly. Don't pour it all at once, because otherwise you're going to get lumps. So adding the water slowly at first to make a paste, and then after it's smooth, you add all the water. Heat it on low or medium heat on the stove, and stirring constantly while you're heating it. It's going to, if you don't stir it, it might get lumpy, and it's gonna kind of thicken up real fast on you, and that's what you want. You want it to be a nice thick paste. Keep stirring it, and then when all the water is evaporated, then it's ready to go. Okay, the next step is to make your batter. So what you're going to want to do is just take your Shutterbug that you just made, mix it into the dough, which has been rising for 30 minutes now. Go ahead and mix that in till it's smooth, and add to that 3/4 of a cup of warm water. Again, I'm gonna want to add my water slowly just to prevent lumps. So mix that well. Make sure your water's well mixed in with your dough and your Shutterbug. Now the batter should be very thin, thinner than pancake batter, similar to crepe batter. And then once it is all mixed in, again you're going to want to cover it again with a towel and just let it sit for about 15-20 minutes, or until you see tiny little bubbles. Okay, we made it to the last step finally, which is to actually make the lahos. So what you need to do is preheat your cooking surface. I find that a clay cooking surface works best because the ones which you find in Yemen usually cooking on a clay surface. So maybe like a pizza stone or a bread stone. I used unglazed quarry tiles, which I got at a hardware store for pretty cheap. The only thing is you want to make sure that they're unglazed, so that means they don't have lead in them and they're okay for cooking. And I put it on a metal surface underneath, like a cast iron pot, so because this way the flame from the gas won't crack the clay. So yeah, I guess you can experiment a little bit with which cooking surface works best for you. I find that the clay surface works best, and it gives it a nice even cooking, a nice even dispersal of the heat. You're going to want to also oil your cooking surface just a little bit. Don't put too much oil, so it doesn't stick. Once your surface is preheated, you can go ahead and pour on your batter in a circular motion, starting from the outside and swirling into the inside, making a spiral. You can cover the lahoh if you want. Cover it so it cooks a little faster, but it's not really necessary. You can see that it's going to cook pretty quickly. It only cooks on one side. So once it's dry on top and you can see all the bubbles, that means it's done. Pretty much done. Just you can lift it up underneath to peek and see if the bottom should be browned a little bit. And then you can go ahead and take it off with a fork. Your batter should be, you should put it into kind of a small container with a spout. This makes it easier to pour. So something with like a spout on the end, or maybe a tea kettle, that also works. This is going to make it a lot easier to make those swirling motions. And also if you keep it on the stove, just so it gets a little bit warm, that also kind of jump starts the bubbles in there, so it makes more bubbles. Like I said, I usually use clay surface to cook it, but I wanted to just show you what it looks like using a cast iron metal pot. So you can see the difference between the one that was made on the clay on the left and the one that was made on the metal on the right. So there you go. And once you have all your breads ready, you can kind of spread them out to let them dry before stacking them up. And at the end, what I like to do is, if I'm going to make another batch in a couple days, I'll take the last bit of batter and I will combine it with the starter ingredients like we showed before at the beginning to make a new starter. And you can. Okay, so that's about it. I hope you enjoyed this this movie on making lahoh in the home, and thanks for watching.